on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk to you about a novel, Brandon Sanderson's Skyward. This is part of what I think is a trilogy. I know there was a second book that has already come out, and I think there is a third one that by the time this video comes up may already be out. I don't know. But this is by Brandon Sanderson, who I have mentioned on this channel before, but this is the first time I've actually read something by him. And this is kind of a long book, but I breezed right through this. And I think I mentioned this when I was talking about the novel Orion and King Arthur. This and that book made me realize that you could have a book that is 200,000 pages long, but if the font is relatively reasonably sized and the chapters are relatively short, then I'm going to read much more of that in a given day than if the chapters are longer. With this, I don't think that there's any chapter in this book that's more than 15 pages long. And I had quite a bit of downtime where I wasn't readily available to read any of my comic books or waste time on the computer, and so I had this book that I was making my way through. And I think this is a very well written book. If you're familiar with some of Brandon Sanderson's other work, this is not a fantasy story. This leans more in the sci-fi direction. I would say it leans more in the science direction. Not so much sci-fi. There are aliens in this story, but this doesn't feel like a really wild and goofy sci-fi story. This feels pretty grounded in the science fact with some aliens thrown in. I'm trying very hard not to spoil this because I do think this is something, if you enjoy reading young adult literature, this is something you should read and give a chance. But like Brandon Sanderson, a lot of his work is fantasy-based, my understanding is. This is not. This is completely different than a lot of what else he's done. And one thing that was kind of, I won't say it was rubbing me the wrong way, but the main character of this book, I found her to be very unlikable for about 2/3 of the book. And I don't think that that was accidental. I think that Sanderson deliberately gave us a character who had some flaws, and I feel like by the end of the book, those flaws are overcome. But for a good chunk of this book, I found myself rooting against this character, and I'm not sure if that is what Sanderson wanted. To talk a little bit about the book without spoiling anything, our main character is Spensa. That is her. She has wanted to join the Air Force on this faraway world. Humanity is basically trapped here, and she has wanted to join the Air Force in this war against the aliens for her entire life. And for various reasons, one specific reason, she is forbidden from doing so. But she's able to persevere time and again. With help of others, she is able to get into flight training, and she's able to persevere and make it work where other people would have given up a long time ago. And that is a very admirable quality. And a lot of people in this society, in this book, have kind of looked down on her and have stepped on her throughout her life. And so she kind of has this it's me against the world mentality at the start of the book. And in some ways, rightly so, because it has been her against the world. But then a lot of times in this book, she will end up being very hostile and aggressive to people who don't deserve it. There is one guy who, his family, they're very old money, very wealthy and high class people on this planet, and the descendants of certain people on this world, they get certain privileges that other people don't. Not fair in the least, and she recognizes that, but then she takes that out on him, and that's not his fault. He hasn't done anything to her. He is allowed to take his test to get into flight school, just put his name on it and turn it in without doing any of the work on the test because of who he is related to. Again, not fair, but that's not his fault. He didn't do anything to her, and she struggled quite a bit more to get into flight school, and so she instantly sees him as an enemy. In a way, I feel like Sanderson is kind of doing a callback to Harry Potter versus Malfoy and his two goons. With Malfoy, as soon as you meet him, Harry is thinking, this guy is a jerk. He reminds him a lot of Dudley, who, if I want something, my father will get it for me. And then Malfoy, when they get to school or when they're on the train, it depends on if you're reading the book versus watching the movie, then it's like, you don't want to hang out with those people. I'm so much better than them. You should hang out with me instead. And you are given reasons to disdain Malfoy in the books and in the movies. But here, with this character, she hates this guy, and she is so mean to him throughout most of the book, and he really didn't do anything to deserve it. There is one time where he kind of lashes out against her after she has been constantly lashing out against him, and then she starts beating him up, and eventually, this is a little bit of a spoiler, eventually these two do kind of come to an understanding. And it's around that point, about 2/3 of the way into the book, where I finally was like, yeah, I kind of like this girl now. In a lot of ways, she kind of reminds me of Jon Snow from the first Game of Thrones book. Jon Snow is a character who, if you're looking at it very clinically, you're going to say, yeah, he's from a very, he's at the very bottom of society. Everybody looks down on him, and so, as a result, we're supposed to feel bad for him. Except, Jon Snow is constantly acting like he is better than everyone. He's like, you know, when he gets to the wall, he even says he's better than these other guys, and he has to be told, these guys grew up with nothing. You grew up basically the son of a lord. You weren't allowed to be called the son of a lord, but you were treated much better than all these other guys. And it's by the end of the Game of Thrones book that Jon starts finally acting a little bit more mature than he had been. He had been kind of a brat throughout that book. The difference is we are not spending every page of a Game of Thrones with Jon Snow. We are alternating between him and like 8 other characters, and so there are many, many pages of that book where we're not spending any time with Jon Snow. With this book, we are spending every page with the main character, with the exception of a couple of interludes that are from someone else's point of view. I will say, I do think this is deliberate. I think that Sanderson is trying to give us a character who has flaws that do make her a little bit unlikable, but also she has admirable qualities that we should strive to be more like her in some instances. If you are in a situation where society is pushing against you when you're trying to do something, push back a little bit. Don't give up at the first sign of defeat. That's a very admirable thing about Spencer. But then her taking it out on everyone that she meets, that's something that I don't want to be like this character. And I do think that that is intentional, because you see a lot less of that towards the end of the book, where you do see that she has started to mature. And in that way, I am very interested in reading the next book. I think it's called Starsight, is going to be the next book in this. Yes, Starsight. And I don't have access to it. My library doesn't have it. This is a former library book. But I'm very much looking forward to reading more in this series. And now that I've read this, I was kind of a casual follower of Sanderson online. I would watch some of his videos on writing. I would follow him in various social media places, but I'd never read anything by him before. Now that I have, I very much want to read some more stuff that he's done. A friend of mine recommended the Mistborn series when I saw that I was reading this, and my library has a couple of those, so maybe I'll give those a shot. Maybe I'll have to seek out some of them and buy them on my own, but I really like this. So if you have heard of this author before, but you've never given him a shot, or you've read a lot of his more fantasy stuff, but you haven't given his sci-fi stuff a shot, I would recommend this. I think that this is good, with the caveat that you are going to have to put up with the character being, in my opinion, pretty unlikable for many pages. But then at times, you're going to forget how much you dislike the character. And other people may like the character a whole lot more than I did. But that's about all that I have to say. So I will see you guys in the future with some more videos. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.